Joining us right now on the phone from Texas, Congressman Chip Roy, who just stepped away. He's had some great speeches, too. Congressman, we appreciate you taking a moment to join us. Can we make you do it? Why can't we make you be Speaker?
Well, you're kind. I mean, obviously.
No, I'm not being kind. I'm being selfish. You would be great. Why can't we make you do it?
Well, look, other people can nominate, but it's still here's the problem: getting to 218, and that's the problem, and that's why we're having the conversation we're having. That's why you've raised valid questions and concerns, as many of my friends and supporters have, about how does this play out? How do we get to 218? Should we unite around Kevin? I get all of those issues. What we're trying to say is we have to get the structural changes if we're going to be able to rally around Kevin, and we haven't gotten there yet. And here's the problem. Here's the conundrum. For better or worse, right? I can deliver a message that there is currently a block that are hard no on Kevin, and it was bigger than it was 2 days ago because of the way that they handled the Republican conference meeting yesterday and the way that they've messaged about what the asks were from those people. People can get mad at me as the messenger. I'm telling you, that's the deal. I am also much more frustrated than I was when Mike Rogers threatened us with pulling us off committees because we said, look, we made a lot of progress, but we're not there yet. So the reality is, we're having the debate we ought to have. And I'm just telling people, you got to some degree, be patient with the sausage making. You don't watch it very often. Like there's been, I don't know what the ratings are for C-SPAN, but they're pretty high right now. But it's an unusual situation, and it's a good thing for 435 people to be in the chamber, and we're actually having speeches and debate. We hope to restore that, and a lot of the rules that we've adopted over the last is the wrong way to put it, that we've advanced in our negotiations over the last 60 days would help. But we're not there yet. I'm trying to do everything I know how to do here. And one last point. Look, I nominated Byron Donalds because I actually believe we need someone who is not a creature of the swamp, okay? Doesn't mean that I wouldn't work out a deal and get there with Kevin. I've been trying to work in good faith to do that. But he's lost a big block of numbers. Yeah. So at some point here, you got to start trying to think, where are we going, guys? So I'm going to be meeting with the current leadership team today in good faith whenever we get another opportunity. I don't know when that'll be. And I will be continuing to talk to people about what the alternatives would be, because that's my job, to figure out our path forward.
What does McCarthy mean when he keeps – and I've heard Trey Gowdy say this too. When they say, the reason they don't have the votes is because people are fighting – I think his quote was – they're fighting for positions and certain gavels and to take over certain committees and have certain budgets. And he said that the only way to 218 is if he provided certain members with these positions. Is that because Trey Gowdy made it sound like it was like this petty fight? What's behind the cloak and dagger here?
Yeah. Well, so what's going on is that the talking points have been put out, and then all of the people parroting the talking points. And like you got the little crew at Fox News that does it. You've got the sort of people who go out and go, okay, I'll go do that. Newt's been doing it. And with all due respect, Trey's done it, because that's what McCarthy put out as the talking points. Those talking points are built on the back of an offer that was made by a group of members on Monday night to try to get Kevin to 218. He was handed something that would get him to 218. The problem is this. That effort was in response to the asks by leadership to give specific names to committees. Let me give you an example. They put on a piece of paper, or out of his paper, it was delivered verbally. Chip Roy put Chip Roy on Rules Committee. Look, Dana, I don't really want to be on the Rules Committee. I have an 11-year-old and 13-year-old kid, and I don't want to fly out on Sunday night to get there to start Rules Committees on Monday morning. I got to be a dad. Yeah. But I put my name on the list because I'm trying to save the damn country. But what happened was then people turned that around and said, ooh, they want plum committee assignments. I don't want a plum committee assignment. I want freedom. So the point here is they started turning that around on some of my colleagues and me. And then yesterday, Mike Rogers threatened us with pulling us off committees. Look, Dana, let me be clear, and I don't care who needs to hear this. You threaten me with crap like that, my response is to tell you just exactly how high you can jump and go jump straight off the cliff. And I'm going to stand up and fight for the people I represent. And getting the news out and getting the message out right now is kind of hard to do in a sea of Fox News pundits with Paul Ryan on the board and everybody over there going, ooh, we got to do what the Republican leadership says. And getting the facts out is hard. Because and so we're doing the best we can to deliver a message while negotiating. I was up till 2 a.m. last night, got up at 6 this morning, round the clock trying to get this right.
Now, 2 quick things left because I know you got to get back out there and keep fighting. My only criticism has been, because I love the deliberative process, I just like having a plan, and I like winning to the point where my opposition turns to ash, rhetorically speaking, of course. But was there any kind of plan like that going forward? Like, was there like, oh, well, let's have, Byron Donalds or Jim Jordan or Chip Roy or Steve Scalise? Because it seems like, it seems kind of like you don't want it. And Jim Jordan doesn't want it. I know he wants to be chair of House Judiciary. That's what he's been going for forever. Byron Donalds, I know, would do it. I think Steve Scalise would do it. What is the plan with that? Because we all know, for when Republicans take over, you got to have the vote. Was there that counter plan? Because it just kind of seemed like it was just chaos the first day.
So remember, like the making the sausage here, right, is not easy, right? So what do? Well, you're garnering votes on the fly. You're building the momentum. You're setting and establishing, hey, here's a block that you need to know are against your block, right? And that's how you set the corners of the negotiation. So we nominated some people. It wasn't without strategy in order to get some names out there. We made, obviously some points about Jim Jordan, who we've got a lot of respect for. Today, we're making some good points about Byron Donalds to just throw people the notion that, hey, you don't have to just accept whatever people coronate and is the status quo. Look, they say, oh, the Republicans all supported Kevin in November. Hold on a second. There was a block who were concerned. There were 36 or whatever it was, no votes against Kevin. Now, keep in mind, the machine in this town that you rail against, that I rail against, that every one of our friends in conservative media and here on the Hill rail against, that machine that gave you a $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill that was garbage, that machine is the same machine that produces an automatic vote for the next guy up. An automatic vote to say, oh, you must be the speaker. You raised $500 million. You're the one that's going to go do this. Hold on. What's the plan? What is this place going to look like? And are we going to have the tools, and are we going to have the will, and are we going to have the leadership to stop the next time there is another bloated spending bill that is screwing over the average American? They're tired of it. They're absolutely tired of it, Dana. I know you are. You are.
Oh, yeah.
Your listeners are. And look, I know we don't want to have a Democrat a speaker. Well, you're not going to get a Democrat speaker if no Republican votes for one.
Well, and that brings me to my next question, not to interrupt you. The Hill just reported that McCarthy has begun talks with Democrats about a deal to support a consensus candidate for speaker or hold out from voting to ensure that he needs to reach a lower threshold. What are your thoughts on that? Because I've heard, I'm not going to name anybody, but I've heard from other members that if there's any kind of leadership coalition that's done with Democrats, there's going to be a ton of votes. I think he's going to lose all support, and maybe the next speaker would strip him of stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's for sure that anybody who goes and tries to cut a deal with Democrats, that's going to be a non-starter. And I won't get into the stripping people game because I just don't like it. But again, for the same reason I didn't like it when Mike Rogers threatened us. Like, look, we're having a robust debate. Dan Crenshaw said some things on the air about some of my colleagues and whatever. I was asked on a show about that. I'm like, I'm not going to make it personal. We're all saying some things right now. I just went on the floor, nominated Byron, said we need a new fresh face. Will I go talk to Kevin this afternoon? Yes, because that's what human beings should do.
Right.
So we're going to go sit down. We're going to keep trying to move everything through. Everybody needs to be patient with the sausage. And look, at the end of the day, yes, this is high stakes. But dadgummit, when those guys stormed the beaches in Normandy, when all of those men and women who fought over the last 20 years in the Middle East, when all of our forefathers who fought for this country, we can sit here and have 24, 48, 72 hours of debate on the speaker, and let's try to make sure we're picking a path that's good for this country instead of the damn status quo that's destroying it. We're spending money we don't have. We're empowering bureaucrats. We have wide open borders. We're engaged in conflict where we don't even have a friggin' actual debate and vote. And we just dropped $1.7 trillion expanding those things, and we got to stop it. And it's not enough to pass it. It's not enough to have a vote. Look, they want to put a vote on one of my bills, and it's a great bill next week. Well, God bless them. I'm for that. Let's get it and let's pass it. Chuck Schumer will deep six and kill it. The question is, what are we going to do to use the power of the purse and the debt ceiling to fight these bastards who are trying to screw our country? That's what I want.
Congressman Chip Roy. That's why we like him. He's out there fighting from the great Republic of Texas. Congressman, thanks so much for giving us some of your time. We're going to watch and see how all of this unfolds. So, goodness, Godspeed.
Hey, Dana, if I'm a point of personal privilege for 10 seconds, I tweeted something out last night that was in response to something Chris put out. You're wonderful, Chris. And I used the word squeamish. That was designed to my members, not Chris. I love you guys. And so it was mistaken, and I'm sorry. It wasn't supposed to be that way.
I'll look at it. I didn't even see it, but I'm going to go look at it now. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Congressman Chip Roy.